The enormous space station floated above the purple clouds of Proxima Tertius like a silver crown. Inside its grand chamber, 12 species sat around a circular table that glowed with soft blue light. The Galactic Council had called an emergency meeting, and the air felt heavy with tension. Representatives whispered to each other in languages that sounded like music. Clicks and thunder mixed together. Ambassador Velkoff stood up from his seat. He was a Vrelian, tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished copper. His 4 eyes blinked slowly as he activated the holographic display above the table. Images of human ships appeared in the air, spinning slowly for everyone to see. The ships looked rough and simple compared to the elegant vessels the Council species used. "These humans have crossed into forbidden space," Velkoff said, his voice carrying across the chamber. "They have established colonies on 17 worlds without permission. They ignore our messages. They do not follow galactic law." Another ambassador made a sound like grinding rocks. It was the Krill representative, a massive creature covered in black armor that seemed to be part of its body. "The solution is simple," it rumbled. "We send the enforcement armada. They will learn to obey, or they will learn to disappear." Far away in human space, Commander Giwan stood on the bridge of the carrier Indomitable. She was a woman in her early 40s with short black hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. Her uniform was neat but worn at the edges. She looked at the message that had just arrived from the Council and felt her stomach turn cold. "Admiral Taman needs to see this immediately," she said to her communications officer. Back on Earth. In a bunker deep beneath Sol, Minho sat at his station surrounded by holographic screens. He was young, maybe 28, with tired eyes and fingers that never stopped moving across his controls. He was coordinating the defense networks for the entire Sol system when the priority alert came through. The Council's ultimatum appeared on every screen at once. 72 hours, Minho whispered to himself. "They're giving us 3 days to abandon our colonies, or they'll attack." His sister Yunji called him from Mars. Her face appeared on his personal screen, and she was wearing her pilot's flight suit. "I saw the message," she said. "My squadron is already preparing. If they come, we'll be ready." "Can't be ready for this," Minho said, trying to keep his voice steady. "The intelligence reports say the Krill Armada has 300 warships. We have 47 ships in the entire frontier defense fleet." Youngji smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Then we'll just have to be creative. Besides, when have humans ever let bad odds stop them?" Admiral Temin was 70 years old and had fought in the resource wars when Earth nearly destroyed itself. He sat in his office at Luna Command and read the Council's message for the 5th time. His hands, marked with old scars, held a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. He knew what was coming. He had fought desperate battles before. The difference was that this time, humanity had prepared something the galaxy had never seen. He opened a secure channel to his senior officers, scattered across human space. "Begin Protocol Valkyrie preparations," he said quietly. "And may whatever gods exist forgive us for what we're about to do." On the Council station, Velkoff displayed more intelligence about humanity. "Their weapons use chemical reactions and metal projectiles," he explained. "Their ships have no quantum shielding. Their fastest vessels take weeks to cross distances we travel in hours. The Krill Armada will defeat them in 6 to 8 hours, possibly less." High Executive Vranthus, the commander of the Krill Armada, listened to this with satisfaction. He had conquered 47 species for the Council. Humanity would be number 48. His fleet was already gathering at the staging point. 300 massive warships that had never known defeat. Each ship carried enough firepower to turn a planet's surface to glass. "We will give them 4 hours to surrender once we arrive," Vranthus announced. "Then we will demonstrate the price of defying the Council. Their colonies will be occupied. Their military will be scattered. Their homeworld will accept Council governance." The Council members nodded in agreement. They had seen this happen many times before. A young species grows too confident, expands too quickly, refuses to follow the rules. The Krill arrive. The young species learns. Order is restored. It was almost boring in its predictability. But Minho, working frantically in his soul bunker, knew something the Council did not. He pulled up classified files marked with red warnings. Project Valkyrie had been running for 15 years. Ever since humanity detected the first alien signals and realized they were not alone, while the Council debated human primitiveness, human scientists had been building weapons that violated every galactic treaty. How long until the installations are ready? Minho asked his team. The quantum disruptors are in position around all frontier colonies, a technician reported. The kinetic kill missiles stockpiles are loaded on every ship. The pilots understand the mission parameters. They understand they're not coming back, Minho said softly. On Mars, Yunji ran through final checks on her fighter. It was a small, angular craft that looked aggressive even when standing still. She had volunteered for the first defense wing, knowing exactly what protocol Valkyrie required. The quantum disruption field would kill everyone who flew into it. The radiation exposure was 100% fatal, but it would also strip every bit of shielding from the Krill ships and leave them vulnerable. She recorded a message for her brother but did not send it yet. There would be time for goodbyes later. The Krill fleet entered quantum slipspace and began their journey to human territory. High Executor Vrantha sat in his command throne and reviewed the battle plan. It was simple and elegant. Overwhelming force applied precisely would break human resistance like a hammer striking glass. The Council observers prepared their recording, equipment to document another successful enforcement action. Nobody in the Council chamber considered that humanity might win. The mathematics were clear. The historical precedent was absolute. 300 Krill warships against 47 human vessels. The only question was exactly how quickly the humans would break. Admiral Taman looked at the countdown timer on his wall. 68 hours until the ultimatum expired. He thought about all the pilots like Youngji who had volunteered for what everyone was calling the suicide wings. He thought about the quantum disruptors that would devastate both sides of any battle. He thought about the kinetic weapons that the Council had banned 800 years ago, after they nearly destroyed an entire star cluster. Then he thought about Earth during the resource wars, when 10 billion people nearly went extinct fighting over water and food. Humans knew how to survive. Humans knew how to fight dirty, and humans knew how to pay any price for freedom. "Let them come," Taman said to the empty room. "Let them learn what desperation makes." Space twisted and tore open like fabric being ripped apart. The Krill Enforcement Armada emerged from quantum slipspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system in a display meant to terrify anyone watching. 300 warships materialized in perfect formation, each one massive and covered in black armor that seemed to drink in the light from the distant star. High Executor Vrantha stood in his command center and felt satisfaction wash over him. This would be the easiest conquest of his career. "Activate intimidation formation," he ordered. His fleet spread out in a pattern that looked like a massive predator opening its jaws. It was psychological warfare, pure and simple. Let the humans see what they faced. Let them understand the futility of resistance. On the human colony of Kepler 442b, alarms screamed through the domed cities. Families grabbed emergency bags and rushed toward evacuation ships. Children cried as parents hurried them along. Everyone had known this day might come, but knowing and experiencing were very different things. The defense satellites detected the Krill fleet immediately and sent the data racing back toward human command. Commander Juwan received the report on the bridge of the Indomitable, while her fleet was still 2 hours away from the colony. She looked at the tactical display showing 300 red dots representing enemy ships. Her own fleet was 47, blue dots that seemed pathetically small in comparison. Lieutenant Hayok, her tactical officer, sat at his station running computer simulations over and over. "Any scenario where we win?" Juwan asked, though she already knew the answer. "None," Hayok replied. His voice was flat and professional, but his hands shook slightly. "Even with optimal performance, we get destroyed in 43 minutes. The colonists need 6 hours to evacuate completely." Jiwan thought about the 70,000 people on Kepler 442b, families, scientists, farmers who had spent 20 years turning that rock into something that could grow food. "Run the simulation again," she said, "but this time add protocol Valkyrie parameters." Hayok's fingers froze over his controls. He looked at her with wide eyes. Commander, those parameters include factors we've never field tested. The quantum disruptors might not work at all. And even if they do run it, Guan said firmly. On Mars, Hunji sat in her fighter's cockpit, going through pre-flight checks for the 10th time. Around her, 119 other pilots did the same. They were the volunteer squadron, though everyone just called them the suicide wing. Each pilot had signed documents acknowledging they understood the mission. Fly into the quantum disruption field. Stay active until the field collapsed or they died. There was no third option. Her communications system chirped, and her brother's face appeared on the small screen. Minho looked exhausted, his eyes red from lack of sleep. You don't have to do this, he said. There are other volunteers. No, I have to, Youngji replied. She touched the small photograph attached to her instrument panel. It showed their parents who died during the resource wars fighting over clean water. Someone has to make sure what happened to them never happens again. I love you, Minho whispered. I love you too, little brother. Now, let me do my job. The Krill fleet moved deeper into the system, their sensors sweeping everything in front of them. They detected the human colonies, the evacuation ships, and the pitiful defense fleet racing to intercept them. Vranthus studied the tactical data and made a sound that might have been laughter in his species. The humans had military vessels that looked like they were built from scrap metal and civilian transports. Some ships appeared to be mining vessels with guns welded onto them. Open a channel to the human commander, Vranthus ordered. When the connection established, he spoke in Galactic Standard, which the humans had learned during their first peaceful contacts. I am High Executor Vranthus, of the Krill Armada. You have 30 minutes to surrender all military vessels and evacuate your colonies. Refuse, and you will be destroyed. Commander Jiwan appeared on Vranthus's screen. She looked small and fragile compared to his armored bulk. When she spoke, her voice was calm. I am Commander Guan of the United Earth Defense Fleet. We do not recognize the Council's authority over human space. You are the ones who should leave. You have 30 minutes? Vranthus actually laughed this time. The Council observers, watching from their supposedly safe position far from the battle zone, recorded the exchange with academic interest. This human displayed remarkable courage for someone about to die. They noted it in their reports. Your response has been recorded, Vranthus said. The Council will remember that humanity chose destruction. He cut the channel and turned to his weapons officers. Target their military vessels first. Disable, don't destroy. We'll need some prisoners to parade before the Council. Countdown began. 29 minutes. 28:20-7. In the Soul Bunker. Minho watched multiple screens showing everything happening in the Kepler 442 system. His team had worked around the clock to position the quantum disruptors, small pods that looked harmless but contained technology humanity had developed in secret. The Council had banned quantum disruption weapons 800 years ago. After their last great war nearly tore apart the fabric of space itself, humanity, not being part of the Council, had no such restrictions. All disruptor pods are in position, a technician reported. Waiting for activation command. Suicide Wing is launching from Mars, another voice said. Estimated arrival at Kepler 442 in 90 minutes. Ow. Minho pulled up the casualty projections for Protocol Valkyrie. The numbers made him feel sick. 120 pilots would die. Probably more from support ships. And if the quantum field destabilized in an unexpected way, it could kill everyone in the system, human and Krill alike. But if they did nothing, the Krill would destroy humanity's frontier colonies and eventually reach Earth itself. The 30 minutes expired. Vranthus gave the order to advance. His fleet moved forward in textbook formation, the kind taught in every military academy across the galaxy. Overwhelming force applied methodically. 300 ships began closing the distance to the 47 human vessels. Then something strange happened. The human fleet suddenly scattered in directions that made no tactical sense whatsoever. Ships broke formation and fled in random vectors. Some went up, some went down, some spun wildly to the sides. To the Krill tactical computers, it looked like complete panic. The humans were running away in terror. "They're breaking," Vranthus said with satisfaction. "All ships pursue and disable. This is over." But Commander Jiwan was not panicking. Each ship in her fleet moved to precise coordinates that Minho's team had calculated weeks ago. As they scattered, they launched thousands of small pods from their cargo bays. The pods drifted in empty space, forming a three-dimensional grid around the Krill fleet. To the Krill sensors, they registered as simple mines or perhaps drones. Nothing threatening, nothing that could hurt their heavily shielded warships. Lieutenant Hayok counted down on his screen. Pods deployed. Suicide wing entering attack range. All ships in position, Guan opened a fleet-wide channel. Every human ship heard her voice. "This is Commander Giwan. You all know what happens next. You all volunteered knowing you might not survive. History will remember what you do in the next few minutes. For Earth, for humanity, for everyone who comes after us." Then she gave the order that would change everything. "Execute protocol, Valkyrie." Youngi's fighters screamed into the battle zone with 119 others following behind her.
Ow.
She saw the Krill fleet ahead, massive and dark and seemingly invincible. She saw the small pods floating in space around them. She armed her weapons and checked her radiation shielding one last time, even though she knew it would not be enough. Nothing could protect them from what was about to happen. "All fighters, go cold on my mark," she transmitted. 3, 2, 1, mark. Every human fighter simultaneously shut down all systems except life support and basic maneuvering. Their power signatures vanished from Krill sensors. To the enemy, it looked like the humans had given up completely. Vranthus saw the fighters go dark and assumed their pilots had lost their nerve. "Pathetic," he muttered. Then Minho, watching from Seoul with tears already forming in his eyes, pressed the activation button. "Field active," he whispered. "May they forgive us." The quantum disruption field ignited. The quantum disruption field activated across thousands of kilometers of space. Invisible to the naked eye, but devastating to any technology that relied on quantum mechanics. The small pods humanity had deployed suddenly connected to each other. Through exotic physics that bent the normal rules of reality, a wave of disruption spread out from each pod, overlapping and amplifying until it formed a massive sphere of quantum chaos. Inside the Krill flagship, every alarm began screaming at once. High Executor Vranthus watched in horror as his tactical displays turned red across the board. The quantum shields that protected his ships from weapons fire simply vanished, dropping to zero in less than a second. Navigation systems went haywire, showing impossible positions and trajectories. The quantum drives that allowed faster-than-light travel began destabilizing, threatening to tear holes in space if they exploded. "What is happening?" Vranthus roared at his officers. None of them had answers. In 800 years of Krill military history, nothing like this had ever occurred. Their ships were suddenly vulnerable in ways that should not be possible. The shields that made them nearly invincible were gone. The technology they relied on had betrayed them. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Commander Juan watched her tactical display light up with opportunity. Lieutenant Hayok's voice shook as he reported what their sensors showed. "All Krill shields are down. Repeat, all enemy shields are offline. Their quantum drives are destabilizing. They're dead in space, Commander." Guan felt no joy, only grim necessity. "All ships, weapons free. Target the largest vessels first. Make every shot count." Far away in Seoul, Minho monitored the quantum field strength. It was holding steady, but the readings from inside the field made him want to scream. The radiation levels were already lethal. Every human pilot inside that field was being cooked alive by exotic particles that human doctors barely understood. His sister was in there. 120 volunteers were in there. They had known this would happen. They had gone anyway. The dark human fighters suddenly roared back to life. Yunji's systems came online, and she immediately saw the opportunity before her. The massive Krill warships hung in space like sleeping giants, their shields gone, their weapons offline. Her targeting computer locked onto the nearest enemy vessel. She armed her kinetic kill missiles and felt the fighter shudder as the weapons activated. These missiles were simple in concept but devastating in execution. Tungsten rods, each one 3 meters long and half a meter thick, accelerated to nearly the speed of light by magnetic rails. No guidance systems. No computers. Just pure mass moving at relativistic velocity. The Council had banned them centuries ago after watching them tear through planets like bullets through paper. Humanity had built thousands of them. Fox 3, Yunji transmitted, using the old Earth military code for missile launch. Her fighter bucked as the kinetic kill missile shot forward. Around her, 119 other pilots did the same. 120 tungsten rods crossed the distance to the Krill fleet in seconds. The first Krill heavy cruiser died without ever knowing what hit it. The kinetic missile struck its exposed hull at 90% light speed. The impact released energy equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. The ship simply came apart, its hull torn open like paper, its interior vaporized, its 3,000 crew members dead before they could even scream. Debris exploded outward in a sphere of destruction. Ranthus watched from his flagship as 19 more ships died in the next 30 seconds. His tactical officer was screaming reports, but nothing made sense. The human fighters were using weapons that should not exist. The mathematics of the impacts were impossible. Each missile carried more kinetic energy than his entire fleet's plasma batteries combined. Return fire, he ordered desperately. All ships returned fire. But the Krill ships could not shoot back. Their targeting systems relied on quantum computers that were useless inside the disruption field. Their plasma weapons needed quantum containment fields that no longer functioned. Their point defense systems that should have stopped incoming missiles were completely offline. They were 300 massive warships rendered helpless by technology. They did not understand Commander G1 ordered her capital ships forward. The Indomitable and its sister vessels closed the distance to the paralyzed Krill fleet and opened fire with railguns. Another primitive human weapon that worked on simple electromagnetic principles. Solid metal slugs accelerated by magnetic fields slammed into unshielded Krill hulls with brutal efficiency. The Indomitable's first broadside caught a Krill heavy cruiser amidships. 6 railgun slugs, each weighing 10 tons and moving at 20 kilometers per second, punched straight through the ship from one side to the other. The cruiser's reactor containment failed, and it exploded in a flash of white light that temporarily blinded everyone's sensors. Lieutenant Hayek could barely process what he was seeing. His tactical display showed Krill ships dying by the dozens. 40 destroyed. 50. 60. The enemy fleet was being systematically torn apart. Commander, enemy casualties are exceeding projections. They're not adapting. They're just dying. Inside the quantum field, Yunji felt her body starting to fail. Her hands trembled on the controls. Blood leaked from her nose. The radiation counters in her cockpit had maxed out minutes ago and were now just displaying error messages. She knew she was dying. She could feel her cells breaking down. But her fighter still responded to her commands, and she still had missiles left. She targeted the largest ship she could see, a massive dreadnought that had to be Vranthus's flagship. The ship was trying desperately to maneuver away, but its engines were working at only fraction capacity, without quantum guidance. Yunji lined up her shot, armed her last kinetic kill missile, and said a prayer to parents who had died when she was young. "Oh, this one's for Earth," she whispered, and pressed the firing button. The tungsten rod shot forward. The Krill flagship's point defense tried to intercept it, but the systems were too slow without quantum targeting. The missile struck the flagship's reactor section dead center. The impact crushed the containment fields, and the reactor went critical. The explosion was enormous, a small sun being born and dying in the span of seconds. The flagship vaporized completely. 6 nearby Krill ships were caught in the blast and destroyed. Vranthus died without ever understanding what had killed him. One moment, he was commanding the Krill armada. The next moment, he was nothing. His final thought was confusion at how badly he had underestimated these humans. The Council observers watched from their distant position with growing horror. Their instruments recorded everything, but their minds struggled to accept it. The Krill armada, the military force that had conquered 47 species, was being destroyed. Not defeated. Not repelled. Destroyed in minutes. by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive, Minho monitored the quantum field timer. 6 minutes and 30 seconds since activation. The field was designed to last 7 minutes maximum before collapsing. After that, Krill quantum drives would restart, and any survivors could escape. He made a calculation that broke his heart. The Krill fleet was down to 80 operational ships. They could still devastate human colonies if they recovered. But extending the quantum field even another minute would guarantee that every pilot inside it died. Admiral Taman made the call from Luna Command. His voice was heavy with the weight of command. Commander Juan, offer terms. Immediate Krill surrender, and we drop the field. Survivors can retreat. If they refuse, we maintain the field until every enemy ship is destroyed. Guan opened a channel to the Krill fleet. Krill vessels, this is Commander Jiwan. Your shields are down. Your weapons are offline. Your High Executor is dead. Surrender now, and we will drop the quantum field. You have 30 seconds to respond. In the auxiliary control center of a surviving Krill command ship, Sub-Executor Ralvek stared at his screens showing the destruction of his fleet. 197 ships destroyed. 18,000 Krill dead. Defeated by a species they had expected to crush in hours, his pride wanted to refuse, wanted to fight until the end. His survival instinct was stronger. We surrender, he transmitted. In the name of the Krill Armada, we surrender. Please stop killing us. Minho pressed the button that deactivated the quantum disruptors. The field collapsed instantly. Across the battle zone, Krill ships felt their systems restart. Navigation returned. Quantum drives came back online. Weapon systems began powering up. For a moment, Giwan thought they might betray the surrender and attack. But instead, the surviving Krill ships immediately jumped to emergency FTL, fleeing human space in complete disorder. They left behind their dead and their pride. Medical alarms flooded the human communications network. Of the 120 fighter pilots who flew into the quantum field, 93 were already dead. The other 27 were dying. Yunji's fighter drifted silent and cold near the debris field. Her life signs were critical. Medical ships raced to recover survivors, but everyone knew the truth. The quantum radiation was 100% fatal. They were racing to give the pilots a chance to say goodbye. The battle had lasted exactly 4 minutes and 12 seconds from the moment. The quantum field activated to the moment the Krill surrendered. The Council had anticipated human defeat in hours. The medical ship reached Yanji's fighter 43 minutes after the battle ended. The small craft had been drifting through the debris field, its power barely functional, its pilot barely alive. When the recovery team opened the cockpit, they found her strapped into her seat with blood running from her nose, ears, and eyes. The radiation had destroyed her body from the inside out. Her organs were shutting down one by one. In Seoul, Minho watched the medical data streaming from his sister's fighter. Every number told him she was dying. The quantum radiation exposure had been so severe that even if they had the most advanced medical technology in the galaxy, they could not save her. His hands gripped the edge of his console so hard, his knuckles turned white. He opened a communication channel to the medical ship. "Let me talk to her," he said. His voice cracked. "Please." The medic in the recovery ship looked at Yunji's pale face. She was barely conscious, her breathing shallow and irregular. "Sir, I don't know if she can hear you. The radiation damage to her brain is extensive." "I don't care. Let me talk to my sister." They patched the connection through. Minho's face appeared on a small screen the medic held in front of Yunji's face. Her eyes struggled to focus. When she recognized her brother, she tried to smile. It came out as more of a grimace. "Hey, little brother," she whispered. Each word seemed to cost her immense effort. "Did we win?" "We won," Minho said. Tears ran down his face openly. "The Krill are gone. The colonies are safe. You did it, Yunji. You all did it." "Good." She coughed, and more blood came up. "Tell Mom and Dad I said hello when you see them someday. Tell them we made sure what happened to them never happens again." "I'll tell them," Minho promised. "I'll tell everyone what you did." "Don't make me sound too heroic," Yunji said. Her voice was getting weaker. I was scared the whole time. My hands were shaking so bad I almost missed my targeting lock on that flagship. You were scared and you did it anyway, Minho said. That's what makes it heroic. Yonji's eyes closed. For a moment Minho thought she was gone, but then she spoke again. So quiet he had to turn up the audio. Worth it. Tell them we won. Tell them it was worth it. Then her vital signs flatlined. The medic immediately began emergency procedures, but everyone knew it was useless. The quantum radiation had destroyed too much. Yang Ji was the 74th pilot to die. By the time the medical ships finished their recovery operations, the count would reach 90-3. Commander Juan walked through the halls of the Indomitable, receiving reports from her officers. The ship had taken minimal damage. 3 crew members injured from a console explosion when they took a glancing hit from Krill weapons fire. Compared to the carnage they had inflicted on the enemy, it was nothing. But compared to the fighter pilots who had volunteered for suicide missions, their victory felt hollow. Lieutenant Hayok approached her with a tablet showing casualty reports. 93 confirmed dead from radiation exposure. 27 in critical condition, all expected to die within 12 hours. For with severe but possibly survivable exposure, though the doctors say they'll never fully recover, Juan took the tablet and scrolled through the names. Each one had a photo attached. Young faces, old faces, men and women from every corner of Earth and every human colony. They had all volunteered knowing they would not survive. Some left families behind. Some left unfinished dreams. All of them left a humanity that would survive because they chose to sacrifice themselves. Prepare a memorial service, Juan said quietly. Full military honors. Every single one of them gets their name read aloud and their story told. I want the whole fleet to understand what these people did for us. On Earth, Admiral Taman received an emergency communication from the Galactic Council. The council chamber appeared on his holographic display, all 12 species gathered again. But this time there was no confidence in their postures. The Varelian ambassador Velkoth looked shaken. Even the warrior species seemed subdued. Admiral Taman Velkoth said formally, "The council demands an explanation for the unprovoked destruction of the Krill Enforcement Armada. You used weapons that violate galactic law. You deployed technology that has been banned for 800 years. This is an act of war against the entire council." Taman stood in his office at Luna Command wearing his full-dress uniform. He had not slept in 48 hours. His eyes were red, but his voice was steady and cold. "Unprovoked?" he repeated. "You sent 300 warships to destroy our colonies. You gave us 72 hours to abandon worlds we had spent 20 years building. You told us to submit to council rule or be exterminated. And you call our defense unprovoked? The council has the right to enforce order in the galaxy," a different ambassador said. It was one of the reptilian species, its scales gleaming under the chamber lights. "You ignored galactic law. You refused to recognize our authority. Force was necessary to maintain stability." "We ignored laws we never agreed to follow," Taman shot back. "Humanity was not present when the council formed. We signed no treaties. We accepted no authority. You decided you ruled the galaxy and expected us to obey. We decided differently." Velkoth made a gesture of frustration. "You used quantum disruption weapons? Do you understand what those weapons did the last time they were deployed in warfare? The Krill-Vrel War nearly destroyed 6 star systems. The entire planets were rendered uninhabitable. Trillions died. We banned those weapons for good reason. And yet you sent a fleet to destroy us," Taman said. "You expected us to die quietly. You did not expect us to fight back with everything we had. That was your mistake, not ours." The council chamber erupted in multiple species talking at once. Finally, Velkoth raised his hand for silence. "The council is considering economic sanctions, complete isolation of human space, and potentially assembling a combined fleet to enforce compliance. Your victory over the Krill was luck and surprise. You will not get lucky twice." Taman had been waiting for this. He nodded to his aide, who sent a data package to the council's systems. The holographic display filled with information. Technical specifications. Deployment locations. Strategic positions. The council members went silent as they read. Those are the locations of quantum disruptors currently installed around every human colony, every military base, every orbital station, and every major city on Earth itself, Taman explained calmly. We have enough disruption pods to blanket a sphere 1 million kilometers in diameter. Any fleet that enters human space will face the same conditions the Krill faced. You're bluffing, the reptilian ambassador hissed. You can't possibly have produced that many disruptors. We've been building them for 15 years, Taman said. Since the day we detected your first transmissions and realized we were not alone in a friendly universe, we've been preparing for this war since before you knew we existed. He sent another data package. This one showed weapon systems. Kinetic kill missiles by the tens of thousands. Railgun installations. Nuclear weapons far more advanced than what the Council believed humans possessed. Biological warfare agents. Chemical weapons. Things the Council had banned centuries ago that humanity had never stopped researching. We also have protocol. Valkyrie 2, 3, and 4, Taman continued. His voice never rose, but every word hit like a hammer. Would you like to know what those entail? Protocol 2 uses quantum disruption fields in offensive mode, not defensive. We can project the field into enemy territory. Protocol 3 involves relativistic kinetic bombardment of planetary targets. We can turn your worlds into molten glass from light years away. Protocol 4 is something we will never discuss unless you force us to deploy it. The council chamber was completely silent. Several ambassadors looked genuinely frightened. They had come to this meeting expecting to chastise a defeated enemy. Instead, they faced an enemy who had won decisively and was now threatening them. Oh, this is insanity, Velkoth said quietly. You would destroy the galaxy rather than accept peace. We would destroy anyone who tries to destroy us, Taman corrected. The Krill came to our space with 300 warships and demanded our surrender. We gave them 4 minutes to understand their mistake. How long do you think it would take us to teach the same lesson to the entire council? He let that question hang in the air for a long moment. Then he continued, his tone softening slightly. Or you could recognize human sovereignty. You could acknowledge that we have the right to exist independently. You could offer us a seat at the council as equals rather than subjects. You could choose diplomacy over force, and if we choose force, the reptilian ambassador demanded, if we assemble every fleet in the galaxy and come to human space in overwhelming numbers. Taman smiled, but it was a terrible smile without any humor. Then you'll learn whether humans are as weak as you thought. And I promise you, Ambassador, that even if you win, the cost will be so high, you'll wish you had chosen peace. We're very good at making our enemies regret attacking us. Minyo sat in the Soul Bunker listening to Admiral Taman's address to the council on one screen while watching casualty reports scrolled past on another. 27 more pilots had died in the past hour. For survivors were in induced comas, their bodies struggling against radiation damage that would cripple them for life. 97 deaths total now. 97 people who would never go home. 3 days after the battle, Commander Jiwan stood at attention in the main hangar bay of the Indomitable. Behind her, 400 crew members in dress uniforms formed perfect ranks. In front of her, 120 flag-draped caskets arranged in precise rows. The caskets were small because there was not much left of most pilots to recover. The quantum radiation had been that devastating. One by one, she read their names. Each name was followed by a brief biography that she had compiled personally. Lieutenant Yunji, age 32, Mars Defense Force, volunteered for First Strike Wing. Destroyed the Krill flagship. Daughter, sister, fighter pilot. She loved old Earth music and wanted to see Earth's oceans someday. The list went on. 97 names. 97 stories of people who had lives and dreams and families. 97 people who chose death so that humanity could survive. The crew listened in absolute silence. Some cried openly. Others stared straight ahead with tears running down their faces. When Jiwan finished the last name, her voice was hoarse, and her own tears fell freely. These people saved us all, she said to the assembled crew. They knew the mission would kill them. They went anyway. The galaxy anticipated our defeat in hours. These warriors ended the battle in minutes, and they paid for that victory with everything they had. We will never forget them. The funeral ceremony lasted 3 hours. Every single casket was honored individually. The ship's musicians played traditional funeral dirges from a dozen Earth cultures. The chaplain spoke words of comfort that felt hollow, but necessary. Then the caskets were loaded into memorial pods that would be sent into the star the colonists called Hope. The pilots would burn in the heart of a sun, forever part of the light that sustained human life in this system. On Earth, Minho stood in front of a memorial wall being constructed in Seoul. The wall was black granite, 15 meters tall and 30 meters wide. Names were being carved into it by laser, perfect letters that would last centuries. He found his sister's name near the middle, Lieutenant Yoonji, below her name. They had added her call sign, Valkyrie 6. He reached out and touched the cold stone where her name would be. I told them, Minho said quietly to the wall. I told everyone what you did. They're calling you heroes. They're building monuments. Your names will be remembered forever. Is that enough? Does that make it worth dying at 32? The stone had no answer. Minho stayed there for an hour, just touching his sister's name, before security officers gently asked him to move along. Construction needed to continue. More names needed to be carved. The memorial would be unveiled in a week with full state honors. The President of Earth would give a speech. Military bands would play. It would be beautiful and solemn and completely unable to bring back any of the dead. Admiral Taman met with his senior staff in a secure conference room at Luna Command. They were discussing the Council's response, which had finally arrived after a week of deliberation. The message appeared on the holographic display, translated into English. Velkoth's face looked tired and old. The Galactic Council has voted to recognize human sovereignty over currently held territories, the message began. We acknowledge humanity's right to self-determination and independent governance. We invite humanity to send ambassadors to join the Council as equal members, not as subjects. We propose immediate ceasefire and the beginning of formal diplomatic relations. Several officers looked relieved. Humanity had won not just the battle but the war that might have followed. But Taman did not smile. He read further into the message to the parts the Council had written carefully. However, the Council expresses grave concern over humanity's deployment of banned weapon systems. We request that humanity agree to limitations on quantum disruption technology, kinetic bombardment systems, and other weapons classified as galactic lethal threats. In exchange, we offer full access to Council technology, trade agreements, and mutual defense pacts. They want us to disarm, one of Taman's commanders said. They're scared of us now, so they want to negotiate away our weapons. Of course they do, Taman replied. We terrified them. The Krill Armada was supposed to be invincible, and we destroyed it in 4 minutes. Every species in the Council is now calculating whether they could survive if humanity decided to attack them. They want assurances that we're not going to become the galaxy's new threat. Are we? Another officer asked. Going to become the threat, I mean? Taman thought about that question for a long time. He thought about the quantum disruptors positioned around every human world. He thought about the kinetic kill missiles stockpiled in hidden warehouses. He thought about protocols 2, 3, and 4, each one more devastating than the last. He thought about humanity's history of warfare, of violence, of survival at any cost. I don't know, he admitted. We built these weapons to defend ourselves. But weapons don't care about intentions. A kinetic bombardment system can be used defensively or offensively. Quantum disruptors can protect our space or invade someone else's. We created the means to wage terrible war. Whether we become peaceful or aggressive depends on choices we haven't made yet. So what do we tell the Council? His chief of staff asked. We tell them we'll discuss limitations, but not disarmament, Taman decided. We'll negotiate as equals, which means we keep enough power to ensure they never try to subjugate us again. But we also need to prove we're not going to abuse that power. We need to show them that humans can be trusted. Can we be trusted? The same officer asked quietly. Nobody had an answer for that, Commander. Jiwan returned to Earth 3 weeks after the battle to attend the unveiling of the memorial wall in Seoul. She wore her dress uniform with all medals. The ceremony was huge, with thousands of people attending. The families of the fallen pilots sat in special seats near the front. Minho sat among them, representing his sister. The president of Earth gave a speech about sacrifice and heroism. Military bands played. Children laid flowers at the base of the memorial wall. Holographic displays showed images of each fallen pilot, smiling faces from before they knew they were going to die. It was moving and beautiful, and Jiwan hated every minute of it. After the ceremony, she found Minho standing alone in front of his sister's name. The crowds had dispersed and they had the memorial to themselves for a moment. Gi-won approached slowly, not wanting to intrude on his grief. "Your sister saved us all," Gi-won said. "She destroyed the Krill flagship. That was the shot that broke their formation and made them realize they couldn't win." "I know," Minho replied. His voice was flat and empty. "I watched it happen from Seoul Command. I watched her fighter go dark. I watched her life signs disappear. I gave the order that activated the quantum field that killed her." Ji-won felt those words like a physical blow. She had commanded the fleet, but Minho had pressed the actual button that doomed the pilots. "You gave the order that saved humanity," she said quietly. "I know that too," Minho said. "Doesn't make it easier. Doesn't make me sleep better at night. I keep thinking about whether there was another way. Some solution that didn't require 120 people to die. If there was, we would have found it," Ji-won told him. "We're not monsters. We didn't want to sacrifice those pilots. But the Krill came with 300 warships and gave us 4 hours to surrender. We had to respond with overwhelming force, or they would have killed millions of colonists." Minho touched his sister's name on the wall again. "She told me it was worth it. Her last words were worth it. But I keep wondering if she really believed that, or if she was just trying to make me feel better about killing her." "Both, probably," Ji-won said honestly. "She believed it was necessary, and she wanted to comfort you. People are complicated that way. But I can tell you that if she hadn't volunteered, someone else would have. We had over 2,000 volunteers for those 120 positions. Everyone understood the stakes." They stood in silence for a while, 2 people carrying impossible weight. Finally, Minho spoke again. "The Council wants us to negotiate weapons limitations. Are we going to agree?" "I don't make those decisions," Ji-won said. "But I hope we do. We proved we can defend ourselves. Now we need to prove we can be something other than warriors. Your sister didn't die so humanity could become the galaxy's next threat. She died so humanity could be free. What we do with that freedom is up to us." Minho looked at all the names on the memorial wall. 120 people who would never see how their sacrifice shaped the future. "I'm going to join the diplomatic corps," he said suddenly. "I'm done with weapons and war. Someone needs to make sure we use our freedom wisely. Someone needs to make sure those protocols never get deployed again." "That's good," Gi-won said. "The galaxy needs more diplomats and fewer soldiers right now. Your sister would be proud." 6 months later, humanity sent its first ambassadors to the Galactic Council. Minho was among them, representing Earth in negotiations over weapons, limitations, and mutual defense agreements. The talks were difficult. The council members were still scared of humanity. Humans were still angry about the Krill attack. But slowly, carefully, they built something like trust. Commander Gi-won received a promotion to admiral, took command of the frontier defense fleets.